and welcome to yet another episode of On the Grid Podcast, Season 4, Episode 18 today. We've got another double episode for you guys as Ethan kindly went on holiday for a week, left me with a podcast, and it went to absolute pieces. So we've got a double episode for you. We'll be reviewing the Monaco Grand Prix, which happened like 20 million years ago. I can't even remember what happened because it was so boring. And we'll be previewing this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. I'm your host, Adrian, once again joined by Ethan. Ethan, first and foremost, how was your holiday? Are you refreshed? Are you ready for the season once again?
Yeah, nice and relaxing. I managed to catch some of the Grand Prix, which is handy because I needed a bit of a rest, so it made me fall asleep instantly. But no, it's good to be back and good to get on with this.
And we've got another special guest. Wow, two in two, may I add. Harvey Todd is back. We might be doing a little announcement about Harvey very, very shortly, very, very soon. But Harvey, hopefully you can hear us. How are you feeling? Welcome back.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
Short and sweet from Harvey. We like it on this podcast. Usually, we like to call his little segments the toddle waffle. I'm hoping for that today because not a lot happened during the Monaco Grand Prix. Let's get into qualifying. Q1, top three of George Russell, Oscar Piastri, and Lewis Hamilton. The two Mercedes looking very quick in qualifying alongside the McLaren of Oscar Piastri. But the bottom five, let's talk about two people there. Fernando Alonso down in 16th, Sergio Perez down in 18th. Both of them knocked out in Q1, alongside Logan Sargent in 17th, and the two Saubers of Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu in 19th and 20th. Harvey, let's go to the resident Red Bull fan, Sergio Perez. There's obviously been a little bit of news regarding Sergio Perez's future, that he's extended his stay at Red Bull. Recap to about a week back, Harvey, where you're seeing Sergio Perez knocked out in Q1 and unable to take his Red Bull car into the top 10 shootout. Thoughts and emotions of what you were thinking with Sergio Perez at that moment in time. Is it the Sergio Perez European Circuit Tour curse? We saw that happen last season as well. What do you think went wrong for him? Or should I say, what didn't go right?
It's a sticky one because I'm sure we'll get onto the contract announcement in a bit, but the only thing that I can think of about Sergio Perez at the moment is lead balloon. There's a reason why that contract announcement went down like a lead balloon yesterday, or whatever day it was. I don't know, something's off at Red Bull, in my opinion. And I can't put my finger on what it is.
Well, I need you to put a finger on what it is, Harvey. As a resident Red Bull fan, you should know everything inside and out. Like you said, the contract announcement didn't go down a treat with many fans around the globe. People were thinking maybe Carlos Sainz was jumping in that seat, etc. But a little bit of what you thought of the contract extension. We'll obviously go into a little bit detail in our Canada preview, but what were you thinking in general? Were you? I'm guessing you weren't best pleased with Sergio Perez announcing his extension of his contract for another 2 years.
No, I wasn't, to be honest. But if you look at it, Sainz realistically was the only option. Whether he'd wanted to go back to Red Bull as well would be another factor you've got to sort of account for. You look at the drivers coming through. I think in an ideal world, Christian Horner wanted Daniel Ricciardo to step up for 2025. Obviously, he's not doing great. Tsunoda, again, probably, I don't know, there's something about Tsunoda. I don't think he'd fit into the main Red Bull team. But then if you look further down, Liam Lawson, inexperienced, and then you've got, well, a whole host of drivers in the junior formulas that have never even stepped foot in an F1 car on a race weekend.
On to Fernando Alonso, Ethan. Another Q1 exit for Fernando. Is there worrying signs at Aston Martin that we've not taken notice of?
Absolutely, yeah. I think their upgrades that they brought in a couple of races ago just have not worked one bit. So I'd be very concerned if I was an Aston Martin fan right now. And Alonso has quietly had quite a poor season, I think. I don't think he's been at the level we kind of expect from Alonso, whether that's the car, whether that's him, who knows. But Aston Martin are in danger of being caught up and overtaken by some of the midfield runners most notably sort of RB. When you've got Yuki Tsunoda performing at a very, very good level, it would be definitely a big concern for those lot over at Aston Martin about their lack of performance, especially when these upgrades were supposed to take them ahead of Mercedes.
On to Q2. The top three were the two, obviously, the two McLarens in 1 and 3, with Norris and Piastri in first and third, with Max Verstappen sandwiched directly in between them. In the bottom five, Esteban Ocon, who I'm sure we'll talk about a little later. Nico Hulkenberg, Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll, and Kevin Magnussen. Obviously, the two Haas drivers were both disqualified after qualifying for failing scrutineering. So realistically, you're looking at a bottom three of Esteban Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo, and Lance Stroll. Harvey, with Fernando Alonso's kind of struggles, is it up to Lance Stroll to kind of step up and show what he can do? I mean, 13th place isn't bad, but in an ideal world, surely he would have wanted to finish ahead of quite a sluggish still Alpine and Daniel Ricciardo in VRB, who's not doing that well at all this season.
Yeah, I mean, your job as a sort of second driver is to make up when the main driver either isn't performing well or just has a little bit of bad luck. And, Alonso sort of in and around that top 10 shootout, if he couldn't do it, you'd have expected Stroll to stick his car in there. And guess what? He hasn't again.
Yeah, it's not boding well ahead of his home race. Daniel Ricciardo, like we say, technically in 12th. I can't put my finger on it. Daniel Ricciardo was made to step up. This season for Daniel Ricciardo is realistically make or break. There's obviously a lot of rumours swirling around saying that these last few races are the ones that are going to be the make it or break it ones, and I don't think he's performed at all to the standards that he was hoping for. And Esteban Ocon, we're talking about Alpine. Here in Monaco, they've qualified 10th and 11th. Ethan, signs of improvement. Could we see him moving towards a closer midfield battle? Could we see him take it to RB? Could we see him make it past RB? Or is it too early to call that sort of situation happening?
Yeah, I think we got to be a bit careful with that because you got to remember how bad they were in those first few races. Alpine, they've got two tremendous drivers there at the minute, and I think they probably have, out of those bottom five teams, they've definitely got the strongest driver lineup. It's just about where that car is, and there's signs of improvement, but Monaco is very much a track of where you qualify is where you finish. So a good qualifying session can make your race, like it did for Esteban Ocon last year when he got a podium. When obviously Alpine shouldn't have been on the podium, but because he qualified so well, put in a great lap, it seemed to all click for him. But yeah, like I said, it's a bit early to call.
On to Q3, and let's start backwards. We usually start from 1st to 10th, but let's start backwards from 10 to 1. Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, 10, 9, and 8. Harvey, were you at all expecting those three in a Q3 top 10 shootout at all this season? Yuki Tsunoda, possibly, but Alex Albon, his season's been a little bit lackluster, and Pierre Gasly in that Alpine, surely we weren't expecting them to be anywhere near the top 10 shootout, especially around Monaco.
I think with Yuki, I think he has shown, what is he, season 4 of his Formula One career? He's shown that he is a competent driver. He is a talented driver. You wouldn't be in F1 if you weren't, especially for 4 seasons in a Red Bull back team. It's nice to see him though towards that top end, and obviously it was a little bit too late for his sort of I wouldn't call it even a Red Bull main team audition, but do you get where I'm coming from with that? You're nodding. With Albon again, really, really good drive. They're good drivers. I can't really keep saying that. But that Williams it floats around.
On to Lewis Hamilton in 7th. I did it perfectly. I decided to bunch the 3 drivers at the back and then move on to Lewis Hamilton. Very good weekend overall. It just didn't happen in qualifying, did it, Ethan? The lap just did not stick at all with Lewis Hamilton. running strong in practice sessions, but just when it came to qualifying, it just didn't happen for him.
Yeah, it's those fine margins, isn't it? Like you said, he had a very good start of the weekend, looked very strong in practice. But then, if you look at it, he's a tenth off. He's a tenth off third on his final lap. And I don't think he really improved much on that final lap. I think there was time left on the board. So it's those fine margins. And you've got to think, if Hamilton gets up to third, fourth, then he probably finishes there, because that top seven was as it started, finished as it started. So it's those fine margins, as we said in Monaco, and that makes all the difference. But it's signs of improvement for Mercedes. They seem to understand the car a little bit better, and hopefully that's a positive sign moving forward.
You say the top seven, it was actually the top 10 that was unchanged throughout that whole race. And there was a fantastic number of 4 overtakes in Monaco. And I guess that's why Monaco is planning to be axed sometime in the near future due to the poor overtaking nature around that track. I guess with Monaco, it's basically the crown jewel. It's like the creme de la creme. And it's just where the rich get to watch some flashy cars go around a racetrack. But not much overtaking happens, and it's purely down to qualifying where you start and where you likely are going to finish. Harvey, I'm going to roll it back to you. Max Verstappen, 6th, shock, right? Everybody, I was even gobsmacked. Max Verstappen, not even in the top 5 for Monaco. What happened? What do you think went wrong? Is the Red Bull slowly showing signs that they need a little bit of improvement to kind of keep up at the top?
I think yes. He's been struggling with the balance of the car sort of the last couple of races. I was talking to my mate about it the other day, and since sort of Horner, obviously we're not going to get into that because I don't really fancy going to court, but since the whole Horner escapade, things have started to unravel at Red Bull, and the car isn't as good as it was. Newey, there's that whole situation. I think it slowly is starting to unravel, and slowly but surely, I think over the course of this season, Red Bull will not be the quickest car, which if you'd have told anyone that 12 months ago, everyone would have been like, oh, you're waffling.
Into the top 5, George Russell, an impressive 5th. Lando Norris, a fantastic 4th for McLaren. Sandwiched in between the McLaren sandwich is Carlos Sainz, who finished P3. Oscar Piastri, who finished 2nd. And the boy wonder from Monaco, Charles Leclerc, on pole position once again. Ethan, the Monaco curse, it's been lifted.
It has. You got to say it's well deserved. Leclerc was the best driver all weekend by a country mile, and he thoroughly deserved pole position. And what happened on the Sunday as well was a great performance from him all weekend long, and I'm sure we'll be saying that again in a few minutes' time when we do the driver ratings.
Well, we don't have to wait a few minutes. We can wait a few seconds, as we are onto our driver ratings now. And let's begin with the race winner, the crown jewel winner, the boy from Monaco, Charles Leclerc. He's finally done it. He's finally gotten a race victory under his belt this season. Qualified first, finished first, 10 out of 10. The boy's done it. I'm proud of him. As a Ferrari fan, it brought a tear to my eye finally to see Charles Leclerc win around the streets of Monaco, but he's finally done it. The Monaco curse is shattered, it's lifted, it's broken, and that is of no more. But it's a 10 out of 10 performance from me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I just said, he was the quickest driver all weekend, and he deserves it. So yeah, I don't really have too much else to add. He's put himself in a really strong position, and given Ferrari's upturn in form, he's only 31 points behind Verstappen in the championship. It's not over.
Harvey, what did you make of Charles Leclerc's performance?
There's 2 sides of me. There's the side that says, oh yeah, I really want to give him a 10 just because it was Monaco, right? No, don't look at me like that. But then there's the other half that is, well, it's hard to overtake around Monaco, but I'm going to give him a 10 anyway, just because it was pure vibes. I've full on sent you there. But no, what Ethan was saying about the championship, like these next couple of races are so key. Verstappen's got, like I say, got no balance to that car. He's struggling with it so much, grip as well. And what track do you need grip and balance? Canada. So that's potentially going to open the door for Leclerc if he can keep it out of the Wall of Champions.
The thing is, he's not a champion, so he's okay. That curse may not strike him. On to P2 man Oscar Piastri, qualified second, finished second. I may as well just say the top 10 as they finish, because they qualified in the same place and they finished in the same place. So Oscar Piastri, P2, I think it's another 10 out of 10. Oscar was the quicker driver. I'd say the quicker driver of the two McLaren drivers, and he showed it in qualifying when it kind of mattered, and then in the race he held Sainz behind him very well, and Lando Norris also behind him. So it's a 10 out of 10 performance. Yeah, nothing much to say. It's similar to what happened to Leclerc, really.
Yeah, again, I agree. I don't think he could do much more. He held off Sainz and Norris very well at the end as well when his tyres were dead. You consider how long that stint was, and he held it together only just because you also look at how much Russell, Verstappen, Hamilton gained on that trio. But second place, first podium of the season, I believe, as well for Oscar Piastri, and it's a great performance.
I'm going to go for a 9. I can't give someone who started second, finished second, and didn't win, can't give them a 10, but I'll give them a 9. I think I'd agree with everything that Ethan said.
Okay, on to Carlos Sainz, and purely because I've given Oscar and Leclerc a 10, I can't give Carlos Sainz a 9. I can't give Carlos Sainz a 10, so I've given him a 9 out of 10. Once again, he was the slower of the two Ferrari drivers, but still very good, very consistent. Completed a double Ferrari podium, and held off Lando Norris very well. He was pushing Oscar Piastri well as well, but obviously in Monaco, it is very, very hard to overtake unless you absolutely send it, which he didn't, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a 9 out of 10 from me for Carlos Sainz. And a little bit of a sign of improvement for Carlos, because I think in these last couple of races he's been quite a bit behind Leclerc. But I think he's slowly starting to step up as the car is improving. So it's a 9 out of 10 from me.
Yeah, I agree again. He's very, very lucky, Carlos Sainz, though, given what happened on the first start. The slightest contact in it would have ruined his race, but thankfully for him, whatever happened behind him happened. And he got a second shot at it, and he didn't mess up the second time. Anywhere else, he probably finishes second. I think he was quicker than Piastri, but just because it's Monaco, Saturday is the main event. So a 9 out of 10.
I'll go for an 8.5.
Sweet and simple. Nothing else to say. Nothing else to add, Harvey.
Well, nothing really happened, did it? Apart from him almost binning it on the first lap of the first start. That's pretty much the only real sort of highlight, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose we're all falling asleep, because Monaco is arguably the most boring race of a calendar. Not much overtaken. On to Lando Norris P4. I don't know. I'm kind of struck between an 8 and a 9. You know what? I'll give Lando Norris an 8.5 out of 10. I think the top 4 wasn't really split by much, but purely on the basis of Charles Leclerc winning the race, Oscar Piastri getting his first podium and kind of securing that, and then Carlos Sainz getting a podium, I think it notches Lando Norris a little bit behind. He obviously was pushing Carlos Sainz as much as he could, but in Monaco, you simply can't overtake. That is a phrase we're going to take away from the weekend in Monaco. There's no overtaking around the track. So I've gone with an 8.5 out of 10.
I've gone with an 8 out of 10 for Lando Norris. I think it would have been a 9 if he was in Piastri's position. But given how quick and how brilliant he's been over the last few races, I can't quite give him a 9 because of obviously missing out on the podium was the big thing, because out of those top 2 teams, he's the one that's missed out. But yeah, like I said, it's fine margins in qualifying, but that's what's cost him at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'll go 8.5. I'll agree with Adrian.
Short and sweet from Harvey today. Harvey, is the Monaco GP bored you that much? Like, usually you're the most talkative one out of a bunch of us.
I'll give a backstory. I didn't watch the race live. So I went to MotoGP in Catalonia. So I'd obviously seen the result. I'd seen that it was the most snooze fests of snooze fests. To then have to come back and then watch it sit there for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, given the red flag. I genuinely felt like I was watching paint dry. I felt like I was watching grass grow. It was a difficult watch. And like, it says a lot when the most entertaining part was Brundle's grid walk, when he walked over to Kylian Mbappe's security. I don't think he was a PR guy. I think he was just security, and he goes, "No, I'm in charge around here." That's the most entertaining bit of the whole Grand Prix, and that is why I wouldn't drop Monaco, even though the racing is terrible. You can't drop Monaco. I'd drop Miami before I drop Monaco.
I think for certain for me, I'd be dropping Monaco as soon as I could. On to George Russell finishing in P5. Yeah, again, I'm kind of stuck because Mercedes haven't had the best of starts to a season, and a 9 would be difficult for me to give. So I've settled with an 8 for George Russell. I think it's a very good performance regardless. He's made it into the top 5, and Mercedes are showing signs of progression in the right direction. But it's not quite a 9 performance for me, so I've settled with an 8 out of 10.
I completely disagree. I've gone for a 10 out of 10 because it was on mediums. He done 76 laps on a set of mediums, which were supposed to last 40. Everybody else done it on hards. And George Russell was the only person that made the medium tyre, which wasn't a very good race tyre as well, by the way. It wasn't as good as it was supposed to be. It was, I don't even think it was quicker than the hard tyre. But the fact he's made a set of medium tyres last 76 laps when some struggle to make the hards last that long is phenomenal. And the fact he's beaten the guy who's dominated the sport for the last 2.5 years in the process is good going as well.
We're still on. I'll go for an 8.
Yeah. Ethan, okay. I'll give into the fact that yes, he's done a race on mediums, but yeah, come on. Is the Mercedes hat on a little bit too much? Is it on a
Not a
little bit too
chance.
much?
Not a chance. A lot of drivers struggled. There was talk whether the hards could last that amount of time, and a lot of drivers struggled. And it took a lot of time management to even make the hards last that long. To do it on a set of mediums is phenomenal. And I think credit where credit is due.
Okay, on to Max Verstappen, P6. I've gone with a 4. Very subpar. I think that for Max Verstappen standards, yeah, it's another weekend where he's taken a hit. And not a hit in the right direction. It's just a hit below the belt. The car's just completely not at one with him. And yeah, Red Bull seriously have a job on the hands if they want to keep Max Verstappen happy, because if I don't keep him happy, he's a goner. Mercedes could be calling, or whoever he goes to. But yeah, I've gone with a 4. Very, very subpar for Max Verstappen standards.
I've gone with a 3. We've seen him dominate for years around Monaco, and yeah, you could probably say a lot of it has been him being at one with the car, like you say. But like I say, something's off, and it's weird. It's very out of character for all Red Bull and Verstappen. I think Verstappen's in bad form, not just with the car. But even still, it's like there's been times where he started lower down and still around street tracks and made it up. And I know Monaco's a different beast, but even you can still overtake into turn 1, you can still overtake into sort of the Nobel chicane. Maybe what is it, Matinee before the Lowe's hairpin? If you want to be, brave and send it, which Verstappen can do, but it's just not had the pace again.
I think both of that is quite harsh. I think that the car isn't there, and the Ferrari and the McLaren were both quicker. I've gone for a 6 out of 10. I think this season what we're seeing is the Verstappen effect and not the Red Bull dominant car, because I think we've had 8 races now. I think at least half of them the Red Bull's not being the quickest car, and yet Verstappen's still on 5 race wins. A lot of it is the fact that Verstappen is the best driver on the grid currently. And I just think on this occasion, with it being Monaco, anything can happen. Didn't get the lap in on the Saturday. And then again, how many times do we see a driver that should be higher up that is starting further back because of their Saturday in qualifying? and they can't do anything. And Verstappen's no different. You can't say the Red Bull's slower than the Mercedes, but because it's Monaco, it's almost impossible. If you position the car in the right place, then you're not getting through. Even with the tyre differential that we saw at the end there with Verstappen on new hards and Russell on such old mediums.
On to Lewis Hamilton, who finished in P7. I can't give him higher than Russell, and I think I gave Russell an 8. So we'll go with a 7.5. I think the two Mercedes drivers did a very good job. I'm not going to discredit from what Ethan said regarding George Russell and him on the medium tyres, because it was a very good performance. But for me, it's honestly down to the Saturday, and what happens on the Saturday kind of dictates your rating, because I don't think you can move many places up or down during the race. So I've settled with a 7.5 for Lewis Hamilton. Still signs that there's a little bit of improvement from Mercedes happening. And I guess Canada up next will kind of be a factor of where Mercedes are really at.
I don't know how you can give Hamilton a 7.5 and Russell only an 8. I've gone for an 8 for Hamilton because I gave Russell a 10. It was a good performance, but how many times do we have to say you can't do anything around Monaco? But a better performance, and it looks like Mercedes are finally understanding their car, so it's promising for future races.
I've gone for a 7, just straight sort of down the middle. Broken record again. You start where you finish where you start. You can't do anything, especially with how wide these cars are. I saw a graphic online about the sort of dimensions comparison to sort of an early 2010s car, a mid 2000s car, and a late 80s car, and the modern cars are so much bigger. So there's no surprise why there's so little action. Well, I'm not even going to say action. It's just time trial, basically.
On to P8 man Yuki Tsunoda. Now, this gives me a very, very tricky situation that I've put myself in, because I've given George Russell an 8 on his performance, and I've given Lewis Hamilton a 7.5. And Yuki Tsunoda, as Yuki Tsunoda is, it's hard to give him anything higher than what I gave George Russell or Lewis Hamilton. So I think I'm going to have to settle with a 7. But down to Yuki Tsunoda standards, I think he was he a lap down, or was he like a minute behind or something compared to the lead drivers? But still finished in the points, got a healthy set of points for RB. Yeah, that's really all the things you can say. You can't really say much more than that. It's another good performance from Yuki Tsunoda.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10. Another solid performance from Tsunoda. He continues to do the business. He's racking up the points, and he's in 10th in the Drivers' Championship, and he's good value for it as well. I think he's got a number of very good performances, and it's the decision not to promote him to Red Bull is purely political. It can't be a performance because he's performing at such a good level.
I'll agree with Ethan. I've gone for an 8.
This little chit chat. Let's move on to our two drivers that rounded off the points in P9 and P10. Alexander Albon and Pierre Gasly. Again, I've made these ratings very hard for myself. I'm going to settle with 2 8 out of 10s for the two drivers in P9 and P10. For their respective teams to be into the points, it's a very, very good accomplishment for the two drivers. We're obviously going to talk about the other Alpine driver a little bit later, but Pierre Gasly, what a lucky man. To not have sustained any damage, to not have sustained major damage to the car, and to still finish in the points is extraordinary. And for the Williams to finally, I'm sure this is their first points of the season, for Williams, it's another great achievement. They obviously didn't start 2024 on the right foot, but yet again, this is another step in the right direction. So I've gone with 2 8 out of 10s for the 9th and 10th driver in Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, I've gone for 2 9 out of 10s for the pair of them. Monaco is not a track you'd associate with Williams doing very well, but Alex Albon has done a very good job yet again. He's had a bit of a quiet season up to this point, but hopefully this is a way he can turn it around and get some good points finishes. As for Pierre Gasly, yeah, he was the quicker Alpine all weekend. Very lucky on the first lap that he was able to continue with the amount of damage that he caused, or that Ocon caused on his car. But solid performances from both of them. You can't really argue with what they've done. They've both put in very good performances.
I've gone for an 8.5 for Albon and an 8 for Gasly. I've had the short straw here. It keeps coming round to me last.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. It kind of goes in an order, like per se. Let's move on to P11 man Fernando Alonso. Qualified in 16th, but started in 14th due to the two Haas's starting from the pit lane, and finished in 11th, realistically making 3 places. I've gone with a 5 out of. I've gone with a 6 out of 10 for Fernando Alonso. I think relatively poor qualifying, but he kind of made the best of a bad situation and finished just outside the points. It's not been Fernando Alonso of old or Fernando Alonso of last season that we've seen so far this term. But he's done all right around Monaco, I suppose. You can't really do much. I mean, had a good start, and that's really about it. That's all you can really comment on Fernando Alonso. So yeah, I've gone with a 6.
I've gone for a 4. He shouldn't be getting knocked out in Q1. And if it wasn't for Stroll getting a puncture, which was his own fault, but he would have been beaten by him as well. So, I think the fact he's finished 11th is actually covered up a poor performance, and I'm actually debating whether to give him a 4 or not, because I think that might be a bit nice.
I've gone for a 5, straight down the middle. Poor quali, good race. Yeah.
On to Daniel Ricciardo, who finished 12th, qualified 13th/12, finished 12th. I'm going slap bang in middle. I'm going for a 5 out of 10 here. It's nothing to really shout about. Your less experienced teammate is beating you once again. And you're just in his shadow realistically when you should be the one stepping up. So I'm going a little bit harsh on Danny Rick because he's been entrusted by Red Bull to kind of step up and to be the one challenging Sergio Perez for a seat. But I don't think he'll be challenging Sergio Perez at all for a seat anytime in the near future. And I think his time in F1 might shortly be coming to an end. But yeah, I've gone slap bang in the middle, 5 out of 10.
I've gone one higher. I've gone for a 6 out of 10. He wasn't a million miles away, but I think this is Tsunoda performing to a very good level rather than Daniel Ricciardo performing at an atrocious level. I still think there's room for improvement. He should be at least matching Tsunoda realistically, but he's not far off. And if you could overtake around Monaco, who knows what would have happened. But 6 out of 10, it's decent. It's nothing special.
I've gone slightly lower than Adrian. I've gone 4.5.
On to Valtteri Bottas, qualified in 19th/17th, and finished the race in 13th, making up four places from his starting position on the grid. I've gone with a 6 here. Similarly to Fernando Alonso, he kind of made the moves due to drivers ahead of him being a little bit silly, shall we say. And yeah, it's the Kick Sauber team are getting currently kicked lower and lower and lower because they're not having the best of seasons. They're arguably the worst team in the paddock currently. And it's just nothing's sticking for them at all. But I've gone with a 6. It's a good performance if you're kind of making positions up from where you've kept out of the wall and not been involved in any chaos. So yeah, I've gone with a 6.
So for Bottas, I've gone for a 5. It's again all right. I think a lot of the positions he's gained are from other retirements and chaos happening around him rather than a good performance from himself. I think he was actually one of the 4 drivers to pull off an overtake, though. I think it was on Logan Sargent, if I'm not mistaken. So a 5 out of 10, straight down the middle.
Yeah, I've gone down the middle as well, 5. Yeah, he's done well to not get tripped over by anyone else's antics.
On to Lance Stroll, and is it time for a Lance Stroll rant, Ethan? Is it time? Can we give it him? Can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it?
I don't even think we need to at this stage. I think it's just what you expect from Lance Stroll. He's in a good position. He's in a position where he can get into the points. He's the quicker of the 2 Aston Martins as well, and then he goes and clips a barrier and gets a puncture. Lance Stroll has 11 points this season. His teammate, who hasn't set the world alight, has got triple that. 3 points finishes in 8 races in what has been by and large the fifth quickest car, fourth or fifth for the majority of this season. It's just not good enough. And last season it cost them. It cost them a lot of money in the constructors. And this is going to do the same again because you've got the RBs, the AlphaTauris, who are not very far behind, and you've got Yuki Tsunoda performing at a very good level. Daniel Ricciardo got a good haul of points a couple of weeks ago in Miami. So how long does it take? How much money does that have to cost them before they actually wake up and see the common denominator?
Yeah, let's round off the Lance Stroll rant. I'm gonna settle with a final rating of 4 out of 10.
I'll go for 3, but that's because I'm not Lance Stroll's biggest fan. I feel like we've had this conversation a lot. I know there's maybe, I wouldn't say a stigma, but there's a cloud around Lance Stroll, and I think the longer it goes on, I think the longer it gets sort of proven right, that realistically there are far superior drivers out there. And he's only in it because of his dad's position in the team.
Ethan, your final rating for Lance Stroll?
I said 4 out of 10.
Yeah, clearly Zoom's not allowing me to hear the 4 out of 10, but 4 out of 10 it is. In general, Logan Sargent up next, finished in 15th, qualified 17th/15th, slap bang in the middle, 5 out of 10. I don't think you can add much. Actually, I'm gonna pair two. I'm gonna go with Logan Sargent and Guan Yu Zhou. I'm gonna pair the two and say 5 out of 10 for the two of them. It's just average. It's just, yeah, it's whatever. Yeah, I can't really add much onto that one.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10, slap bang in the middle because it's all right. It's nothing special. I think he was resigned to where he was starting after qualifying, but his teammates getting points and he's not. So his time in Formula One is limited. Put it this way, he won't be in Formula One next season.
Yeah, Ethan's just stole my thunder. Nice one. I've gone 4.5 for both. Logan Sargent, I think you could probably count on one hand the amount of F1 races he's got left. I'm surprised they maybe didn't drop him after Miami, just to sort of give him that last sort of home send off. But there's been reports the last handful of days that it's Carlos Sainz going to be stepping in next season. So that's a significant improvement. It's one from the start. It just didn't really make sense. I suppose they would have wanted the sort of American marketing, which they have tried to tap into, but it's not gone. It's not been repaid on track.
Ethan, your final Zhou Guan Yu rating?
Yeah, I've gone for a 4 for Zhou Guan Yu. Yet again, he's been beaten by his teammate, so I have to give Valtteri Bottas the edge on that one, which is actually 8-0. And I think Zhou Guan Yu is now the only driver not to make it out of Q1. Logan Sargent got into Q2 at Monaco, so he's the only driver that's not made it into Q2 so far. So a 4 out of 10 for him.
Did you say that Logan Sargent got into Q2 in Monaco?
He did, didn't he? Qualified 15th.
No, he qualified 17th, but he started.
It's an effective Q2 with the Haas being disqualified. So
okay. If we're going by technicality, okay, I'll give it you, but he's still not physically made Q2 in a sense. Let's talk about our 4 DNFers. Shall we start off with our Esteban Ocon rant? Who wants to start? Raise your hand. Who wants to start about Esteban Ocon?
Me. I'm going to shout out. I'm that excited. I'm going to shout out. Well, should we just mention that, he's been dropped. He enjoys crashing into his teammate. And for someone who's been in the sport since 2016, 2017, he's making an awful lot of just novice mistakes, rookie mistakes. They're just stupid mistakes you wouldn't expect from a driver who's got his level of experience. Oh, but he had a year out in 2019. No, he's, been part of the Mercedes program. He's fronted the Alpine. He's driven alongside Alonso. He's got so much experience. He should not be doing stupid stuff like this at season 8, 9 of his F1 career. I'm sorry, but Alpine have got it absolutely nailed. And hopefully they give the opportunity to Jack Doohan.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time until Doohan gets that seat. There's talk about Mick Schumacher, but I don't see that happening at all. It's stupid to do at Monaco on your teammate. It's ambitious, but yeah, I don't know what he's thinking at all. So I've gone for a 2 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. It's complete suicide around Monaco with, starting 10th and 11th. They've scored 1 point all season. So it's an actual opportunity to dig in, get a few points and see what you can do. But instead he has decided to send it, and apparently there's team orders that whoever qualified in front would have the preferential treatment, and that was understood by both drivers, but apparently not for Esteban Ocon.
It's a corny.
Yeah, I was just going to say, finally, give us your rating, and then you can go on a bit of an extra rant, because I know you're literally just on your seat.
I'm sorry, you don't send it coming out of the sort of double right out of the hairpin. Just be patient, go through the tunnel, and if there's a glimpse of an opportunity, you send it into the Noval chicane. If there's not an opportunity, you wait until the turn 1, Santa Fot. No heroics into Santa Fot, please, is what the Alpine people would have been saying. It's stuff you'd expect to see in a Formula One open lobby, not in the actual Grand Prix, by someone, as I've said about 5 times now. He's been in the sport nearly 10 years. If he was a footballer, he'd have a testimonial. Instead, he'd have his P45.
It's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. Okay. I don't need to add any more on that. You guys have done it perfectly.
Good riddance.
Even better. Yeah, I've settled with a 2 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. Completely suicidal. And I don't know what the hell he's doing. So, do we talk a little bit about Sergio Perez, Nico Hulkenberg, and Kevin Magnussen? Okay, before we go into our little side section on them 3, let's give our ratings, and then we can move on to talk about those 3. So for Sergio Perez, I've gone with a 2. For Nico Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen, I've gone with a 3 out of 10 for the 2 of them. Ethan, go first, and then Harvey.
So Sergio Perez, I've gone for a 2 out of 10 as well. He shouldn't be down there in the first place, but I actually think he's the one at fault in that collision. I don't think Kevin Magnussen is, as much as a lot of people are blaming Magnussen, I don't think he's actually at fault for that. Perez just completely turns into him when he's got his front axle alongside Perez. And then I've gone for a 4 for Hulkenberg, 3 for Magnussen. Hulkenberg edged out Magnussen in qualifying before they were both disqualified, so that's the only reason I've done it. And I don't think either a driver could really be blamed for being disqualified. I think it was more of a team issue, not the drivers.
I've given Perez a 2 and a 3 to both Haas drivers. I'd agree with Ethan. It's just a complete mess up Beaurivage. It wasn't a Beaurivage, was it? Again, it's 2 experienced drivers basically thinking they're in an F1 open lobby. It's antics you'd expect, maybe not in F2, but sort of stuff you'd expect maybe in F3 a little bit. It's just ridiculous. Perez should know better, but I think at the same time, Magnussen perhaps could have backed out if he'd have seen the situation, but then that could have then led to something happening where someone runs into the back of him. It just then creates a mess further back. So it's because Perez has pinched him of space. That's basically what's caused it.
Feels like Harvey's woken up a little bit here. He's finally found something to talk about, to rant about.
You've tripped my live wire. I love a rant. And it annoys me seeing people who've been in, Kevin Magnussen's been in 2014. Perez has been in since I can remember. It's stuff you'd expect to see from Oscar Piastri and Logan Sargent. Realistically, if the rookie errors, stupid mistakes, whatever.
Hey, I'm just not happy that we're rewinding time and talking about Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton once again, because that episode still lives in my memory as arguably one of the best episodes of On the Grid, with you two just stealing the episode from me, not letting me talk and doing your thing. Okay, less of F1. Let's segue ourselves into a little bit of Formula 3. Action and a little bit of Formula 2 action, where obviously the qualifying format is a little bit different to Formula 1. There's obviously 30 drivers in the Formula 3 grid and 22 in the Formula 2 grid. So it was Gabriel Maini that got pole position for the feature race, and it was Nicola Solov who got the reverse grid pole position for the sprint race. and he was fortunately the one to get himself a victory in the sprint race, with Tim Tramnitz in second, Lawrence Van Hoopen in third, Noel Leon in fourth, Joe Loki in fifth, Mary Boyer in sixth, Dino Beganovic seventh, Luke Browning in eighth, Leonardo Fornaroli in ninth, and Oliver Goethe in 10th. In the feature race, as I said, Gabriel Maini got pole position, and that's where he finished. He finished in first, ahead of Christian Mansell and Luke Browning, rounding off the top three for the feature race. Rookie Arvid Lindblad, backed by the Red Bull Academy, finished in fourth, with Leonardo Fornaroli finishing a good fifth for Trident. Dino Beganovic completed the promo lineup. He finished sixth, with Mari Boyer in seventh, Tim Tramnitz eighth, Joe Loki in ninth, and Oliver Goethe rounding off the points. Looking at the F3 standings, Gabriel Maini has taken the lead in the championship. He jumps up 3 places from fourth to take the net lead after Monaco. Luke Browning holds second place, with Leonardo Fornaroli dropping down 2 places to currently sit in third. Dino Beganovic is in fourth, Arvid Lindblad in fifth, Oliver Goethe sixth, Tim Tramnitz seventh, Sami Moga Tunith in eighth, Christian Mansell, after a very, very good weekend in Monaco, is in ninth, and Lawrence Van Hoopen in 10th. Looking at that Formula 3 standings, Ethan, Gabriel Maini in a very good spot at the moment, 4 points ahead of Luke Browning in the championship. Leonardo Fornaroli obviously dropping down 2 places from his championship lead position, as he had a relatively quiet weekend. It's still from fourth to first. There's only 14 points separating fourth and first. But I think slowly we're seeing a pattern where the top 4 drivers in the championship are slowly pulling away from the chasing pack.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that always happens, isn't it? In the junior formulas, because it's a spec series, the best drivers always rise to the top, and that's no different here. Like you said, it's a very, very tight championship at the minute, and it all it takes is one bad race from any of the leading pack, and they're almost at starting afresh and have a mountain to climb. But it's interesting to see how it goes. I think there's only 4 or 5 races left of the free season, so we'll see how it goes on.
And Harvey, Gabriel Maini, obviously another, I believe, Alpine back driver. It could only take a couple of obviously good seasons for him to maybe finally make the step up to Formula 1, but how good is it, especially for Nikola Zolov and Gabriel Maini, to be showing the Alpine main team that only a few more step-ups for them and they could be in contention for potentially an F1 seat?
I think it's a very good thing, because if you look at sort of Pierre Gasly's sort of half trajectory, he perhaps might not be in F1 for sort of 4-5 years. But then Alpine do have a track record of maybe letting talent slip through their fingertips. If you look at a certain Australian, they have kept an Australian on their books for now, but I don't know, it just feels like they'd rather put pen to paper with an established driver rather than give a rookie a chance. I could be proven completely wrong in the next sort of 2 weeks if they give Jack Doohan the seat, but I don't know. It's a sticky one, because I can't really say, oh yeah, they'll go and give rookie a seat, but then at the same time they've had a track record of not giving them the seats.
Not many teams have really opted for a rookie driver per se. I mean, we've seen McLaren opt for Oscar Piastri instead of Alpine. Williams obviously went for Logan Sargent, for example. But you've got Formula 2 champions like Teo Pourchaire, Felipe Drugovich, Callum Ilott in the past that have not really had the chance to step up and shine as much as possible. And even Mick Schumacher to an extent. I mean, he won the championship. He had 2 seasons at Haas, and then he was binned off for a more experienced lineup at the Haas team. So only time will tell what Alpine will do. Moving on to Formula 2, and Group A actually came out on top again. It was Richard Verschoor that dominated qualifying. and he got pole position for the feature race. But Tyler Barnard did manage to get reverse grid pole position, and he managed to finish that race in P1 to claim his first race of the season, with Gabriel Bortoleto and Dennis Hauger rounding off the podium. The ever-present Kimi Antonelli finished in the points, a strong fourth place, with Franco Colapinto, Roman Stanek, Paul Aaron, and Isaac Hadjar rounding off the points. In the feature race, as we said, it was Richard Verschoor that started on pole position, but it was actually Zach O'Sullivan who absolutely splendidly made his way through the field, perfectly timed a safety car, or I think it was a virtual safety car, and finished that race in P1, with Isaac Hadjar finishing in P2 and Paul Aaron completing the podium. Oliver Behrman made his way up from, I believe it was near enough, the bottom 8 ranges of the grid to finish in P4. Juan Manuel Correa as well up in 5th. Dennis Hauger in 6th. Kimi Antonelli 7th. Gabriel Bortoleto in 8th. Victor Martins dropped from 2nd to 9th. And Zane Maloney claimed the final points place in P10. And looking at the F1 standings, it's actually a rookie that's on top at the moment. Paul Aaron made 17 points during that weekend to put his overall tally to 80 points and take the net championship lead in F2, with Isaac Hadjar in 2nd, Zane Maloney 3rd, Dennis Hauger 4th, Gabriel Bortoleto 5th, Kimi Antonelli 6th. Zach O'Sullivan made up 8 places in the championship after his feature race victory to move himself up to 7th. Franco Colapinto in 8th. And Kush Miney and Enzo Fittipaldi finished on 0 points, and they're currently 9th and 10th in the championship. Paul Aaron, Ethan, did very well in Formula 3 last season, and he's proven that, like you say, it's all about the good drivers, the best drivers in Formula 2 that rise to the top and inevitably kind of pull away from the leading pack.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strong weekend from him. And surprisingly, actually, you saw a lot of overtakes in the F2 and F3 races. So it goes to show that it's something to do with Formula One. That's the problem. Whether drivers are a little bit less willing to take that risk or what. But yeah, you can see that there's entertaining races there. Great weekend for Ollie Behrman. I think he has not had the start to the season that he would have wanted, but he's got a good result there. Not too far off the podium, but a long way still to go for him to put his name in the headlights for that, particularly for that Haas seat.
Let's move on to our Canada preview now. A Canada preview. I don't think we talk about the Sergio Perez signing because it's not gone down as a treat whatsoever with fans, and for us to talk about it in a massive episode like this would be a waste. I think save it for a future episode when we've got a little bit of a blank. So let's jump straight into our predictions. Star predictions up first. So I've gone with another set of Albon points. I think last season Alex Albon showed what he could do around Canada, and I think that might be on display once again. And for my second star prediction, I've gone with a Ferrari double podium. Dare I say a race victory? I don't know. I'm not going to say race victory. I'm going to say double podium. I'm going to stay safe. Ethan, your 2 star predictions, please.
I've gone for Alex Albon to get points. I think it's, he had a good weekend at Monaco. I think he's going to get more points. And I've also gone for 3+ DNFs. I think it will continue with, a tricky track. It's supposed to be a lot of rain in the air as well. So I think there'll be a few DNFs.
Harvey, your 2 star predictions?
I'll put my teeth back in. I'm that excited. No, I'm on the same lines as Ethan. I've gone for an early red flag. Just because of what Canada's like. A lot of, as we saw last week, a lot of rookie errors. I'll just keep saying that. But I've gone for another Red Bull double non-podium.
Interesting, very interesting. That's kind of not what I've gone for qualifying. For qualifying, I've gone with Max Verstappen to bounce back and get pole position, with Carlos Sainz in second ahead of Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in 4th and 5th. Ethan, what have you gone for qualifying? Is a certain Max Verstappen in there?
He is. So I've gone for Lando Norris on pole. I think this will be a track that suits McLaren down to the ground. I've gone for Charles Leclerc second. Verstappen in third, Piastri fourth, and Carlos Sainz in fifth.
Harvey, your top 5 for qualifying?
I've gone for Charles Leclerc to take pole. He'll be joined on the front row by Oscar Piastri. Oh, I'll start that again. I've gone for Charles Leclerc on pole. I've gone for Oscar Piastri to join him on the second row, on the front row, sorry. Norris, Sainz, and Verstappen rounding out top 5.
For the race, I've gone with, you know what, I'm not backing my boys at all. I've gone with a Max Verstappen victory. I think he might find himself winning a race once again. Like we say, Max Verstappen effect. Charles Leclerc second, Carlos Sainz third, Lando Norris in fourth, and I've actually gone with George Russell in fifth. I think Oscar Piastri might have a bit of a problem, which will relegate him down. So I've gone with George Russell in fifth. Ethan, finally, your race prediction.
So I've gone Oscar Piastri to win. I have got a feeling that he's gonna pull it out of the bag and get the win. Norris in second for McLaren 1-2, and I've gone Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz in third and fourth, and Verstappen in fifth.
Harvey, finally, your race predictions.
I've gone Oscar Piastri to win the race. I was going to put that as a star prediction, but I thought I'd save it. Leclerc second, Sainz third, Verstappen fourth, Norris fifth.
I've completely forgot to kind of look over our Monaco Grand Prix predictions. And I'm going to do that at the end of the episode because it's a little funny segment whilst we've got a couple of minutes. I'm just going to round off, and I completely had nothing. Like, I scored 0 out of 12. I didn't get anything correct. And I don't want to get into it. Ethan, if you scored any points, enlighten me, because I scored no points at all. No points. 0. Zilch.
I got a big fat 1, and that was me saying that Pole will win. So that was my 1 point from the Monaco predictions.
Well, there you go. The sport of Formula One is changing. We're never changing. We'll be back next week reviewing the Canadian Grand Prix. Thank you, Harvey and Ethan, for joining me on this episode. Thank you for listening. Like I said, we'll see you next week. Goodbye. In the meantime, we look forward to the Canadian Grand Prix. Yeah, goodbye. Stay safe.